right. Well, a big thank you to Dr. Sarah Eger and Dr. M. Balasubramaniam for a fantastic session. And welcome back, my friends, to a new session. And this particular session has been sponsored by our platinum sponsor, Gale India Limited. So a big thank you to you. And now is the time where I'm truly excited to invite one of the most eminent personalities when it comes to our field. We have Dr. Harish Shetty, consultant psychiatrist, Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital and member, Indian Psychiatric Society and Indian Medical Association. So the topic is personalizing patient care, which is very much important. And to spearhead this session along with him, I would like to invite Dr. Rajiv Ranjan, Assistant Professor, Department of Psychiatry, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Patna. So a big warm welcome to both of you gentlemen, and Rajiv sir, over to you.
Mute.
Sir, can you unmute please?
Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Thank you, organizing team, for giving me this opportunity to introduce me, and also I am in front of Dr. Harish Shetty, which I have not met yet, but still I in the screen I can see, and he has been instrumental in all what we have seen in last 20 years when we were the students as undergraduates and postgraduates. We have seen his name everywhere. So I am fortunate enough now to introduce Dr. Harish Shetty sir. And in this, I think a little bit information has been given by organizing team. Formally, I would like to introduce sir. Sir, he's a practicing psychiatrist, that what he has already told at L.H. Hiranandani Hospital currently in Mumbai. And he has done his postgraduate in psychological medicine and also postgraduate diploma in comparative mythology from Bombay University. Now, sir has been working in the field of yoga and mental health in last 12 years and has rich experience in the field of mental health. Sir has also had immense experience in school mental health. That's my area of interest also, because I am working with the child psychiatry. Currently, I am consultant in child psychiatry here. So I am exciting to see what sir has to say in this current presentation. And sir has worked with conducted various workshops for the student, teachers, school heads, and also for non-teaching staff in last 2 decades. And so overall, sir is aided in championing the rights of children of overall their life. So we all are concerned about the rights of the children here also in the state of Bihar also. So we have conducted various workshops now. I think sir has a very specific topic to ask today. So personalizing patient care. This particular topic, I think, I think must be very informative, because we have different level of evidence from generating evidence, then the synthesis of evidence in terms of meta-analysis and systematic review. Then after that, compiling all those evidence, then we will go through some guideline from some society or from the government or the policymakers. And then the last step of this, the very important crucial step, is catching up is informed healthcare, informed health decision. These headings now currently is emerging, and this is called personalized medicine. Now, sir will talk about this particular subject on this area, and especially in the mental health. So we are exciting to see what sir has to present today. So now I would like to invite Dr. Harish Shetty sir to formally introduce the session, and over to you all, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Rajiv, for that kind words, and thank you everybody for inviting me. Thank you, Nankumar, for that call you made long ago, and thank you, Aditi, for chasing me for a very long time. Let me start by saying personalized care is qualitative. Evidence hai, but let us talk about personalized care in our culture. Well, personalized care would mean two important variables. One is, do you love your work? When I lecture young graduates, medical, psychiatric, I ask them one question. Do you love your work? And number two, are you able to respect your colleagues who work with you. Well, you may not love your colleagues, like your colleagues, but do you accept that you can never choose your parents and your colleagues? They'll always be there. Kainat ne bheja hai. It's all about destiny. So if you love your work, then things become much easier. The day when you lose interest, things become very difficult. I always say that when you ask a doctor or a psychologist or a nurse, काम कैसे चल रहा है? And when they say routine hai, iska matlab they're dying, they're going down. But if somebody says बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, patients जो है ना वो कल का जो depression मैंने देखा, yesterday I saw the depression patient, he had a different twist for his depression. And day before yesterday I saw a similar patient with symptoms, but he had a different story. When you love your work, you see stories that are different in every patient. When you slowly become jaded, you say, sab kuch routine hai. And that is the danger we need to really understand. As I start my presentation, I would like to pay obeisance to both Patanjali and Bhagwan Buddha. Patanjali gave us yoga, and Bhagwan Buddha gave us mindfulness. He called it Vipassana, but the world calls it mindfulness. Vipassana is free, but mindfulness, you have to pay. And as I start my first slide, I would like to share with everybody here. We transact our beliefs before we transact science. Whether it's a teacher, a doctor, a politician, an IAS officer, a police officer, that is the first step for us to understand. And what are these beliefs? The other day, I was training senior government officers, and one question a gentleman asked, how, Dr. Shetty, can we understand unconscious beliefs? How can we make it conscious? And I told him that the best way to do it is to explore yourself. I'll tell you my beliefs when I started my practice. I was anti-OCPD patients. Well, for people who do not understand OCPD, those are very perfectionistic. I just could not stand them. I just could not stand those patients who repeat one sentence again and again, OCD. And there was a reason. My father was OCPD. And he would always make me do things in a very perfect manner. And I nursed that entire image in my mind, that story in my mind. And it took me a long time after I finished my psychiatry course to understand and really accept people who have OCPD and OCD in my clinical practice. And what did I do? I first got aware that this is a kink. This is a belief. This is an unwanted, irrational thought which stops me from giving my best in my life and my practice. And then what I did was expose myself to a lot of OCD patients. Roger Everett said long ago, knowledge changes attitude, attitude changes practice, that KAP model. But I told myself, knowledge or attitude ke beech mein exposure is important. Knowledge can change attitude, but exposure and understanding what exactly it is helped me to change my attitude towards OCPD. This is just an example of how beliefs can interfere with your work. In fact, as a small child, I was told by my parents that alcoholics are very bad people. They don't take care of their families. They actually, those on the road sleeping, they're very cruel to the families. They beat up their families. And I have seen in my neighborhood alcoholics who have beaten up their spouses and others. And I grew up with this entire belief that alcohol is actually not an illness, but it is a vice. It's a habit. It's something which I always felt very repulsed with. And then what happened? In my MD psychiatry, I would negatively respond to a patient with alcohol abuse. And once I passed, it took me a long time. How did I overcome this? I went and started working in a de-addiction center and worked there for 12 years. And that's how I slowly came over the entire belief, wrong belief, faulty belief that alcoholism is bad. So what is very important for us to understand that if you really want personalized care, you need to be aware of your beliefs. Those slip of the tongue, those statements that you make with your children, with your father, with your parents, your statements may be political, sociological, psychological, and maybe just simple. And again, Again, what is also important is identifying beliefs requires awareness. And I'll come to that. The third belief I had was about Sindhis. My God, those days, Sindhis in Bombay were an upcoming community. They could manufacture anything from Colgate to a pin. And the thing which was drilled in my mind is they can duplicate anything, just like the Chinese. And I was told that ये duplicate जो काम करते हैं वो उल्लासनगर के हमारे सिंधी है. And I really had to fight that. And to fight that, I exposed myself to the Sindhi community. And what I saw was a lot of enterprise, a lot of courage, a lot of fortitude, a lot of resilience. And I read the stories of partition and how they were settled. And that helped me gently, slowly to really get over my belief. So first, my dear professionals, Hindus खराब है, पंजाबी लोग बड़े उद्दट है, Muslims बड़े odd है, और ये सब जो चीज है, and it's so important that you become aware. And awareness is all about exploring yourself within. And how does it start? Awareness of feelings is extremely important. Extremely important. And as you say that, how do you become aware of your feelings? And awareness of feelings is who's that? And awareness of feelings is extremely important. So most of the times when I in my exercise with doctors, I give this exercise. Early morning 6:30, your mother-in-law has knocked the door. You open the door to pick up the newspaper, but then you see your mother-in-law. How do you feel? And they don't share feelings, they share thoughts. She'll come and help me in my work. Why the hell she has come? She'll really instigate my wife. I'm so happy that she has come. So very few people share happiness, resentment, joys, and anger. Hello? नहीं बाबा, मैं 5 से 6:30 बजे नहीं बताया ना आपको. And that is what is so important. So as you do all this, exploring emotions is extremely important. Exploring emotions would mean learning about emotions. There's enough research which has said that you need to listen to your anger. Anger is a positive emotion. Aggression is an abnormal state. Irritability is anger in motion. Explosive anger is really traumatic. And at the same time, as I say this, I would like to say that anger can get cooked into resentment. And resentment is a cup of poison. You drink and expect somebody else to die. It can get converted to hostility. And sometimes a nurse would say, that patient comes to my desk and irritates me. I get angry. He really grabs all my attention. And in fact, I really throw that anger on my colleagues or on the other patients. 21st century, anger is one of the most important emotions to understand. Aggression, humiliation is a norm in an angst-driven society. So listening to your anger, accepting anger. So what is the most important thing? Identify your feeling, acknowledge your feeling, accept your feeling, experience your feeling, and most of the times exhaust your feelings. So awareness of feelings is important, and anger is a normal emotion. Aggression is an abnormal state. Just allow me to give you an example. A doctor would get angry at his wife, but he will not get angry at his neighbor's wife, because love and anger are also very closely related. So again, awareness in your practice. When you get very angry with the patient, when you get very loud with the patient, that would mean there's something wrong. Something is tickling your black box, your beliefs about certain communities, certain illnesses, certain people. Or also, what is extremely important is probably you have not slept enough, probably you have not had your food, probably you're seeing too many patients, probably you're working long hours, and probably you have stopped your exercise. Very important to be aware of anger. Sadness is also a very positive emotion. Sadness is a positive emotion. Depression is a negative state. And when I say this, let me tell you, empathy, sadness is the flower pot. Empathy is the plant. You need to have emotional regulation. And also experiencing sadness to also experience sympathy and empathy. My dear friends, Those who block their sadness can't love. Those who block their sadness also can't enjoy. They say nothing, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है मुझे, हमारे घर में कोई खुशी है, कोई दुखी नहीं है. Sadness is a normal emotion. Depression is a very negative state. And joy. Everybody tells, there's a lot of happiness workshop for doctors. Happiness is not a consistent emotion ever. No way. Well, peace is what you can chase. Joy is the byproduct of peace. And experience it as it comes. It comes, it goes. So all these emotions come and go, come and go. You feel very happy when somebody says, "Aapne mera zindagi badal diya, Doctor Sahab. Aapne ye dawai di, itna acha laga." Somebody will tell a nurse, "Tumne meri itna khayal kara ki mujhe bahut acha laga," and a lot of gratitude, and you feel joyous. But my teacher, Dr. N.S. Vaya, said, doctors, nurses, psychologists should understand that 50% of people will praise you without reason, and 50% of people will criticize you without reason. As you accept joy, you should accept also criticism. And what is also very important is building equanimity, building emotional regulation will improve your personalized care, and that is very important. Fear is again a normal emotion, anxiety is an abnormal state. Well, this guy got a promotion. He became a professor before me. His OPD is bigger than mine. More patients come and see him. Well, he was not good in MBBS, or he was not good in his master's in psychology, but he's earning more than me. And this is such a normal emotion, absolutely normal. I still remember when I actually was applying for a job, and I felt that I would get the job, and I found actually that somebody else got the job, and all four of us who did not get the job went to have a little milk in a shop. And then we acknowledged our jealousy. Acknowledging this, jealousy is a normal emotion, is also a very important skill to really become more compassionate and more empathic with patients. Now, empathy is not a function of time. लोग कहते हैं ना, जब तक तुम समय नहीं बिताते हो पेशेंट के साथ, तब तक पेशेंट के प्रति आपको करुणा नहीं आएगी. बिल्कुल नहीं. Empathy is not a function of time. India, we work with numbers: 9,000 psychiatrists, 10,000 psychologists, 20 crore patients, and 40 crore more patients who have stress. And in a globalized world, parents work 12 to 14 hours. They meet the kids only for 10 minutes. The intensity of contact, the 10 minutes is more important. It's the intensity of time more than the quality of time. It's the emotional energy you bring to the table which helps you, your rapport with the patient or the client. So, how does empathy work when you have little time? Complete focus, being there, being mindful of what he or she says, being completely with the person, echoing the cultural beliefs. Extremely important. All doctors and psychologists have been bred in a culturally illiterate environment. I was choosing psychologists for the schools of Goa through the government of Goa, and I asked each one, 65 psychologists, I asked each one, who's Patanjali? Can you believe? 64 did not know who was Patanjali. Few said it is Ramdev Baba's company. Only one psychologist said who was Patanjali. So empathy is also about cultural resonance. When you say Jai Jinendra to a Jain patient, Salam Alaikum to a Muslim patient. And if you know the cultural denominators of your clientele, of your constituency, of your people, you will understand that personalizing becomes very easy. Empathy is not a function of time. It's a function of your presence at that point of time, and that is being completely there. And that happens when you practice mindfulness for a very long time. Well, micro-counseling is the job of psychiatrists also. We may not have time for an hour's counseling like qualified psychologists actually do. And we may not have the mandate to do all that at that point of time. It may not be essential. Micro-counseling is in a few minutes. Say, for example, Dr. Rajiv Ranjan spoke very, very well about child mental health. I'm so happy that he is involved in child psychiatry. I'm really, really happy. So if a child comes to you and you have 10 minutes and he's addicted to games, parents have brought him there and he's not interested in meeting you. I would, in that 10 minutes, get into his frame of reference and find out which games he's playing. And I would ask him to get a laptop next time to tell me how is it played. Getting into the frame of reference is also empathy building. So micro-counseling would mean when somebody comes and says, I'm so depressed, I'm better now. And I would give him 3 or 4 educative tips on tackling depression at home. I might tell one important point to a carer of an Alzheimer's patient, what to do and what not to do. And in that, I would listen to them for a few minutes. Empathy is not a function of time. Micro-counseling happens when empathy is very good. Well, when we leave a person who comes to a house for dinner, we go down up to the car, we say bye. And when they drive out, they look on the side and say bye, and you also say bye. And as they entered your house, you said hi to them. A loud hi, a loud greeting. A hi is as important, but the bye is more important. So when you get up and the patient goes, look into his eyes, look into her eyes, and leave him up to the door. That also helps your back, because if you sit for a long time at a place, your back is in deep trouble. So the bye is as important as the hi. In COVID times, I used to tell all doctors in COVID hospitals, a lot of workshops I did live, offline, and online. And I would say that you may have discharged 20 patients today, but at least 2 or 3 patients, leave them up to the door. Look into their eyes. There'll be gratitude, and you'll be inspired. There'll be gratitude. You will be injected with enthusiasm. But at the same time, those who are going horizontally, who have passed away, don't leave it to the doctor, don't leave it to the nurse alone to give over the dead body. Once in a while, send the demised patient, the patient who passed away, to the relatives with respect. When you do that with respect, that by, even if the patient has passed away, there's compassion connecting both of you in the cosmos through silence and through a few words. So this is also important. Now, what is happening in the world around? Globalized world, there's no time for empathy. There's no time. Everybody is running around. Little time to your spouse, to your friends, to your close relatives, and then when there's a banquet, people let themselves loose. Apathy is a function of a globalized world. It's an artifact of a globalized world. In this disaster, this is what I've seen. And what did I see? What did I see? I saw people numbed with fear of somebody's death. When they're numbed with fear, they are apathetic. They do not feel like passing condolences. They do not feel asking kya hua. And they're numbed with fear. Fear can make yourself very apathetic. Sadness can make you numb, that can make you very apathetic. But if you make an effort and pick up the phone and say, I miss your father, he was a nice man, or you send an SMS, empathy remains. I still remember antipathy has come up in a very big way in the COVID era. Beta, papa, तुम नहीं जाओगे तुम्हारे बहन को मिलने के लिए, बहन अभी अस्पताल में है, वो कोविड से बाहर आई, मुझे पता है, but आप जाओगे तो आपको कुछ होगा तो हमारा क्या? So there's antipathy, there's compassion for the father to his sister, but the sons do not have compassion because they're more attached to the father, and we see a lot of antipathy. Remember one thing, keeping your feelings alive, sharing your feelings brings empathy and compassion. And also what is very important is research has said, psychologists have said that when there are a lot of deaths, empathy goes down. Read the book by Chinmay Tumbe on the past pandemic. In the cholera epidemic, once the death was over, they would auction all the things of the officer, including his undergarments and his shoes. Because a lot of deaths, empathy goes down, empathy improves, and it's just a matter of fact that you handle people. My dear friends, surgeons, cancer surgeons, physicians, all those who are non-psychiatrists and psychiatrist students, remember this, locked minds are time bombs. And that means as and when you feel that you failed in your exam, be open about how you feel about it. If you're upset with the examiner, be open about it and share your feelings. If you're upset with your parents or your boyfriend, be open about it. And if you're at a breakup, cry loudly, talk loudly about it. There are many guys worth living for and no guys worth dying for. There are many exams worth living for and no exams worth dying for. And I mean guy, boy and girl. Never die for a guy. And that will happen if you unlock your minds and accept that she's left me. He has left me. It's perfectly all right because love has birth, growth, and death. It's not that you're bad. Love has birth, growth, and death. And you may fall out of love, perfectly all right. But remember, lend your hand to a person who's down so that suicides go down in Delhi and so many other places. So it's important to understand that keep your minds unlocked so that you are very generous about what's happening to you. And when you are in crisis, kill shame and seek help. My dear friends, these are three important concepts. All of us, medical graduates, nurses, doctors, remember, we all need a safe space. Safe space where you can be emotionally nude. You're not concerned about your visiting card. You're not concerned about who you are. You're not concerned about your position. You're not concerned whether you know the PMO's office. You're not concerned whether you know the honorable secretary or the prime minister or members of Niti Aayog. Doesn't matter. Visiting card is an illusion. And if you maintain your safe space, my dear doctors, my dear medical graduates, my dear nurses, where you can be yourself. I have my schoolmates for the last 40 years talking to me twice a week, and we are ourselves. We have seen each other in the nude, we have seen each other pink and the same loo, we have chased the same boys or the same girls, or probably we have fought, but we are emotionally nude. Safe space is very important for giving personalized care in the future because you have a buffer. You have a buffer. Self-talk. अपने आप को कहना कि मैं आज ओपीडी में इंटर्न हूं तो क्या हो गया, मैं सभी के साथ कोशिश करके अच्छे से बात करूंगा, कोशिश करके मैं जितना हो सके अच्छे से काम करूं, मुझे काम से प्यार है. लव फॉर योर वर्क एंड रिस्पेक्ट फॉर योर कलीग्स आर द टू पिलर्स ऑफ पर्सनलाइज्ड केयर. सेल्फ ऑडिट, मैंने गुस्सा कर दिया यार, पेशेंट अच्छा नहीं हुआ, मैंने ऑपरेट किया, कुछ हुआ, कुछ बड़ा गड़बड़ हुआ, मैंने बात नहीं सुनी. And at some point of time, when you sleep at night and the fan goes around you, there are thoughts coming up and the thoughts are saying, well, this is not the right thing I did. I shared my wallet with somebody else and not only my knowledge. I did something not very nice, and your conscience will start hitting you. Audit your work all the time to find out whether your compassion quotient is actually going down. Audit your work all the time to see whether things are right or things are wrong. Self-audit would not mean that you should be obsessively critical about yourself. Self-audit would not mean that you should be morally so hard and rigid that you become Guru Dutt of the past or that you become a Nirupa Roy of the past. Rational audit and reflective audit. I'll tell you what, in Bombay, we psychiatrists, few of us meet once in a month or once in 2 months. And we have a coffee hopping exercise. It's got cut because of COVID. And then we can share all our goods and our bads. We can share black humor. You can't share that with the family because they might not understand you completely because they don't understand the context of medical practice. If he or she is not a doctor, safe space, self-talk. खुद की बोली, मैं अपने आप को क्या कहता हूँ, मुझे बहुत बहुत मत्सर होता है यार, वो बहुत साला, वो उसको मेरे से ज्यादा मार्क्स कैसे मिला, मैंने उसे सिखाया, उसको गोल्ड मेडल मिला, मुझे नहीं मिला. और मैं अपने आप कहूंगा यार, मार्क्स तो आती जाती है जैसे शेयर बाजार का पत्रिका. Continuous hard work, continuous learning with keeping our antennas open is what is extremely essential for us to be honest and good in our work. Stress doctors are rude. Doctors are nice. बट 10 अस्पताल में घूमते जाएंगे, हजारों पेशेंट्स देखने की तमन्ना रखते हैं, गुस्सा करते हैं. Those patients whose communications have collapsed in the family, those patients who do not share the bads and the goods to anybody, those patients who sleep less because they're always on the Netflix. A lot of medical graduates are on the Netflix at night. सो जाओ यार, you know ना, बेजे से पंगा लिया तो क्या होगा, गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. My dear friends, Veer and Hash, though a lot of people in your hospital say that you should be actually decriminalized, I would tell you, my dear friends, stay away from substance. Sleep is more important than a hug to your mother or your wife. If you sleep well, your hugs will have more energy, more zing. If you sleep well, your kisses and your smooches will have more energy and more zing. So stress, managing stress is important. And that really screws up your personal care. As I said in the opening remarks, love for your work and respect for your colleagues are the two pillars on which personalized care actually remains. My dear friends, बहुत सारे लोग वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस पर लेक्चर लेते हैं, हाउ टू मैनेज वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस. मेडिकल प्रोफेशन है यार, we are doctors. We have taken oath. When you're actually going for a dinner and you have to go and do an emergency operation when you become a doctor, my dear graduates. The work-life balance is a myth. It's a myth. Okay. Imbalance is the truth. But finding balance in imbalance is the skill. Work-life balance is a myth. Imbalance is the truth. Finding balance, which means what? I have to go to a conference, and my wife has actually made a holiday for both of us. I did not know the dates of the holiday, and I goofed up and I said yes to a lecture. What will you choose? I actually have been actually promoted as a professor. I feel very happy with my college. But my friend who's in private practice is luring me to come say, ये कितना कमाओगे, बाबू होकर क्या करोगे, मिनिस्टरों का इलाज करोगे, थोड़े एक्टर्स लोग का इलाज करोगे, बाबुओं को मिलेंगे, बहुत पावर लगे, बाहर आ जाओ, पैसे कमाओ. And then asking yourself, what is the philosophy of life? And telling yourself that in my philosophy, this is what I'm going to feel good. And if I'm going to feel good, I'm going to be very good to my patients and my family. And that is something very, very important. My dear friends, सब कुछ करने के बाद भी मन का फ्रैक्चर हो सकता है. I see a lot of suicides in Delhi in medical colleges recently. Somewhere there's something wrong happening. Not in the, we can't change the environment, but there's something, कुछ कम पड़ रहे हम लोग. We're not addressing mental health to its fullest in our campuses. Probably we are not able to reach out to different professionals from different disciplines and telling them that, we need to take care of mental health first. We need to make them better human beings, healthy human beings before they become great doctors. So remember, fracture of the mind is invisible. A fracture in the hand is visible. And if at all, if you feel very irritable, extremely lazy, very agitated, sleep more or sleep less, eat more or eat less, feel useless and hopeless. My parents are in deep trouble. I feel useless. I think I'm a burden on them. Do not hesitate to knock at the friendly neighborhood psychologist or psychiatrist. Jaan bach jayegi. Do not go to the astrologer. No shame. Kill shame and seek help. 1 out of 7 Indians are mentally ill, according to the Ministry of Health. 20 crore Indians are mentally ill. And if you take care of yourself, then you'll be able to take care of your patients. My dear friends, this is my Panchamrut for all doctors, medical students, and nurses. I'm not ashamed to say that yoga is a great science. I'm proud of it. Enough double-blind meta-analysis available. US Navy has told their naval marines or the naval personnel to do yoga on their ships. A research in IITB has shown that marks improve, relationship improves, and health improves when you do yoga. I think yoga should be compulsory in AIIMS for all medical graduates. Yoga is not a retirement activity, nor an activity for bored housewives. Your prefrontal cortex will improve. It will help you to take decisions. Your limbic system will improve. It will help you to actually understand feelings and improve your health. Your amygdala will calm down so that you do not become emotionally hijacked. Hindi mein kehte hain mufat. Yoga has been accepted all over the world. Enough studies of yoga changes the brain, changes the body, and brings the mind-body orchestra in harmony, bring the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system into balance. Well, you must have heard about Black Dog, not the whiskey. Black dog is a term Winston Churchill used for his depression. And WHO has a 4-minute movie which every nurse, every psychologist, every patient, every human being on the earth should watch. Exercise helps mild depression and stress. Unless you have a family history, unless you have a lot of stories in your life, or you have a lot of stressors, exercise dissolves fears and tears. Before you go to your ward or before you go to your classroom, medical graduates, just jog, spot jogging for half an hour in your room. You'll see the changes happening inside your mind. Diet, again, I would not say more because you all know, but remember, eat food which does not stay in the intestines for too long. Sleep, I made a mention of that. And lastly, kindness improves health and your immunity. I'm not saying it. There are enough evidences. And I don't want to make this lecture Mr. K. Abraham et al. No. I'm going to give you the essence, not the milk, not the curds, and not the chas. So yoga, exercise, diet, sleep, and kindness are the specific ingredients to maintain your health. And in case things go wrong with that, you need to take support. You need to knock the door of the psychiatrist. Amitabh Bachchan said, "Do boon zindagi ki oral polio ke saath." Psychiatrist kabhi kabhi kehta hai, "Do goli khushi ki." Or psychologist will say, "CBT karao, achhe ho jaenge. RBT karao, achhe ho." They really don't say that a young psychologist who's 23 will not be able to understand what I think at 45. No. A psychologist is a trained professional who can provide therapy. He or she can change your thinking. He or she can actually help you to clear your cobwebs. He or she will help you in the journey of life and understanding you better. He or she will help you in the journey inside when you are running frantically outside to make a name. The journey inside is as important as the journey outside. Well, Avdesh Sharma, Nanda Kumar, and many others are doing fantastic work in the journey inside, and that is so, so important. As I close, Dr. Rajiv, such a kind doctor. I would come to Patna one day to meet you as and when I have an opportunity. My dear friends, this is one of the 2 sentences which everybody hates when you're sad and depressed. Tumhe kuch nahi hua yaar. Thoda apna man ko majboot karo. Ye tumhe kuch nahi hua na, when you say it, tell a doctor who's stressed or depressed, it is one of the most insulting sentences, worse than a breakup. And those who say, समय से सब कुछ अच्छा नहीं होता यार, ये पत्थर ऊपर से मेरे सर पे गिरा तो मैं ये नहीं कह सकता हूँ कि समय से सब अच्छा होता है. Strain of the mind might get well with love, affection, exercise, yoga, but fracture of the mind needs medication. Just as iron improves hemoglobin, insulin dissolves sugar, medications also can dissolve thoughts. And psychologists and psychiatrists working together in tandem. Sometimes the psychologist takes over the patient much more than the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist plays a small role. Sometimes psychiatrist plays a major role. Psychologist plays a minimum role. Sometimes they both play equal roles in different patients. Very important. Time is not always the best healer. And as I stop, my dear friends, watch this movie, Patch Adams. All you medical graduates should watch this movie. I will not say much about the movie, but if we have a little of Patch Adams, if we have a little of Charak and Sushruth, if we have a little of Professor V.R. Joshi, my teacher, Dr. Anis Vaya, Dr. R.K. Anand, and all the great doctors who have been examples of compassionate care, I think we'll all grow little by little. My dear friends, I thank you so much for inviting me for this beautiful seminar. I thank you, Aditi, Nandakumar, Avdesh, and his wife, Rajiv, for making this happen. Life is a journey. Audit yourself, change yourself, and remember, when you keep your antennas open, you may learn from somebody junior, senior, or somebody on the side. Remember, my dear medical graduates, it's not the lectures which teach you. It's not the class and the wards which teach you alone. It's the casual conversations with your teachers. That is also a great teacher. Thank you, friends. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Such a beautiful deliberation from your side, and mostly it's your experiences what you have told it throughout the presentation, what I have observed. This is not a didactic lecture that what ordinarily we are saying from the presentations. So I think experiences always tells a truth of the patient also and also the therapist also. So this particular sessions, I think I think they're dedicated to patients who come to us with all their agonies or their beliefs and how we have to go. The healing part, the last slide, what you have told us, that is the most beautiful one. To summarize all the things what you have narrated beautifully. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. We have learned a lot. I think I must say I have learned a lot from your session and others also. So some of the few questions were there in chat box. That 4 questions were there. What I have seen. So that okay. So the first question that was directed to you is about the patient therapist therapist and the patient relationship. I think 2 questions were from that, all of the 4 questions from the participants. The first question: do you think an initiative should be introduced among medical and healthcare professionals where a deep introspection about our belief need to be questioned so that we can heal, also give better care to our patient? So what you have told in the last slide.
Our entire journey is to increase our hug space. When you start as a graduate, what happens? You feel you know everything. And then slowly at this point of time, I know how much I do not know. So slowly exposing yourself to adverse circumstances, exposing yourself to people more than patients. I would request every medical graduate, once a month, you should go to the people and do an educative awareness activity. And when you go to the people and do educative awareness activity, you'll find that you get more refined and you understand things better. So increasing your hug size. And actually in medical school, it's so important not to have only a communication skills workshop. Communication skills cannot be devoid of emotional skills. If you are building your emotional energy bank, if you are building emotional wealth and emotional equity, you will slowly find communication skills comes automatically. It's not the words that you communicate, it's the state of being that you communicate. It's not only the language, it's the state of being. So I agree with that sentence that somebody said. We need to actually teach children, students, right at the first MBBS, respect and love, respect to your peers and your colleagues, and love for the profession. And also commitment, which goes beyond money, which goes beyond the visiting card, which goes beyond everything. I completely agree with that sentence.
Okay, so that's what the viewer has told. So probably they have told in terms of what we have to introspect ourselves first before healing to the patient. I think throughout the healing from the beginning to, because we are always in learning process. What I have started my journey in 2008, so now I am in 2021. 13 years of journey, and what you have, sir, from last 30 years or so. So in this field, we are learning a day-to-day life. The last 1.5 years is the most troublesome for us. We have learned a lot. That's what. The next question is related to such similar manner. That's why I'm taking up this question before that other question. Question number 4 is related to this one, Lisa. In this, the viewer has asked about in this cutthroat society today, how much stress do you think are the doctors under to promote their own business? And how much is it also affecting the patient who come to seek help to you? Or any other mental health?
Absolutely. Cutthroat would only mean that you feel you're looking around his shoulder. When the great sprinter ran his 400 meters race long ago in the Olympics, he stood forth because somewhere he looked around. My dear friends, work genuinely, work honestly, be good to your patients. You will earn enough money. Let money chase you when you don't chase money. And be strategic in your practice also is very important. And cutthroat would mean a sense of insecurity improves when the journey inside is less. Subodh kar pranayam karo, to pata chalega you are a temporary traveler on this earth, and you would be able to accept what you earn, and what falls on your plate at night is something which you will accept. So don't look around, do your best, you'll be good. For that, mindfulness, yoga, vipassana, meditation, tasbih, or any form of inner journey will help you to be in equanimity and your emotional regulations will be good. And that is, sometimes you might feel at 40s, यार मेरे दोस्त तो इतने पैसे कमाए, इधर गए, मैं सिर्फ इधर प्रोफेसर हूँ, या मैं यहाँ प्रैक्टिस करता हूँ, गाँव में तो अमेरिका में. Your visiting card is an extension of yourself. It's not yourself. If you are able to sit with your family and relax and feel the breeze, if you're able to enjoy small moments of joy, you will be good. That does not mean that you should not be ambitious. Be ambitious, run, but don't stop your inner journey when you're running on your external journey. Thank you, my dear Rajiv.
Yes, sir. Very importantly said, sir. I think work and both family is important in our journey, and so that's what we have. We should not forget about the later half the period, later half the life. The family part is more important than the professional life. So that's what we always have to balance now, because we are now, I think, young. We are comparing with other people. Those have written beautiful projects. They have got funded by ICMR. So we should also try. And we are doing a lot of hard work. A different field, different setting, they are different difficulties, different limitations are there. So it's happening. So we are the new issue here. So we're also facing a different level of difficulty, right? So you have a different level of difficulty. So everyone is facing, yeah.
India is a young country. America is an older country. So they are much ahead in terms of we'll also come up. So that's it. Keep trying, keep doing.
Yeah, we all are trying. So in this context, I think one viewer has asked very relevant, pertinent question in today's society, that what he has asked about, do you think body image has become one of the root problem for patient and also the doctors who are treating, and unfortunately indirectly also are big part of the promoting in the Bollywood culture. Now we are seeing mental health and the new millennium TikTok culture.
Absolutely. I mean, Dr. Rajiv, how you feel defines how you look. But when you turn that around and you say how you look defines how you feel, you lost it. Let me tell you, my dear friends who are watching the show, a lot of models who are excellent on the photo op are not healthy.
Yeah.
A lot of anorexia and bulimia. And a lot of you guys who binge, who exercise, do not measure the girth of your belly, nor do you take proteins to build your muscles, nor do you take methamphetamine to really make you feel loose. You are much happier. How you feel defines how you look. Number two, accepting your body exactly as it is. Man is a champion of structure, but God is a champion of diversity. Alag-alag namuna Bhagwan banate hain. Accepting your body exactly as you changes the way you think and feel about yourself. It might take time, but you may not accept completely. But if you are in a journey of accepting your body exactly as you are, at the same time, I'll take care of my health, accepting your family exactly as you are, accepting the scooty which your father had exactly as you are, that would not mean that you'll not aspire for a car or an aeroplane. But acceptance of this body which God has given you from the cosmos helps you to really bring down a lot of anorexia and bulimia. And I agree with sir that a lot of girls do not eat in school. 2 रोटी खाएंगे, हम कुछ नहीं खाएंगे. उन्हें नहीं पता है कि यहाँ कुछ खाना नहीं गया तो कुछ याद भी नहीं रहने वाला है. नहीं खाया तो शरीर में तकलीफ होगी. And there's a lot of work we need to do in schools. Schools, Rajiv, you know it well, on life skills, emotional health, and also on all these areas. There is an increase in cases of those with a lot of eating disorders and body image problems.
So this is Bollywood culture, sir, size 0. That we are the adolescent girls, especially, they are born to fit in that culture.
A lot of them are sick.
All are sick.
And Rajiv, all those 8-pack abs don't come with chicken tandoori. They come with injectable, non-indicated medications.
We all know, sir. That's all. One last question, sir, from the viewers. Sir, about Deepika Padukone has talked and worked around depression as she had suffered herself. Do you think more celebrities should talk about mental health openly so that it does not remain a closed discussion?
Absolutely. I would say each doctor here, each graduate, each nurse, each psychologist, each admin staff, and everybody who's here in the show is a celebrity. Let's not wait for others to talk. Let's start from ourselves. And I'm so happy that celebrities are talking. And I was so happy that Virat Kohli also spoke.
Yeah.
But remember, there is no branded college. Each student is the brand. Each person who's listening to the show is a celebrity. So let's start with ourselves. And agree with Dr. Rajiv's question that it's important that people talk. People who are influential, they have a bigger impact. But believe in your own influence. And that, I think, is very important. Thank you, Rajiv, for beautiful
Yes, sir. Some of the questions that, this was the viewer question. Some of the questions from your slide that you had presented, I had also, I think, come across, and then I wanted to ask you, sir, you have talked about the micro counseling. That is the same what we are doing as a psychological first aid?
It's a very broad term. I learned it from my friend very early. Micro counseling is the little counseling we do when we see patients of different illnesses or different disorders. Emotional first aid is a very clear, superficial assistance to a patient. But micro counseling would mean that when you see a patient of depression, you give 1 or 2 tips of how to handle him at home, or you also give 1 or 2 tips of what you think you should do in depression, and also hear a few minutes of his Vedana and his anger, and that I would say micro counseling. Macro counseling is important. But in a busy day when India has 20 crore patients, all of us should also do a little micro counseling, which means being there, being aware, being connected, and being compassionate.
Yes, right. Means what we generally, psychological first aid is given only we are listening to the patient, what they have, and then we are giving only feedback to the patient. That's what they are doing. We are not actively involving, and we are giving some therapy to the patient.
See, in India, Raju, in India, एक तो एडवाइस पेशेंट्स को जाना बहुत जरूरी है. हाँ, एक पत्य बोलते हैं हम हिंदुस्तान में कि एक ऐसा शार्प एंड दे आर वेटिंग फॉर दैट एडवाइस.
Yes, sir. That's what.
That's what you're doing. Fantastic. Fantastic.
That's why they are coming to you. It's not only for medication.
Yes, sir. Yes.
They are coming for some.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And one of the slides you talked about the goodbye, especially in the COVID times where many people, many of us, we are not able to say goodbye to our loved one in the proper manner. So what's your advice for those people? I think those who are still suffering, they have still bereaving for their loved ones.
Absolutely. I have lost 2 members of my family in COVID, and I cremated my auntie alone and my brother also with people. Very important for us to understand that even if they have not seen the cremation, even if they've not done, to really probably go to the doctor and have a 5-minute chat of how was she during the last moments, and go to the place and really re-grieve the entire process. Go to the most important spiritual destination of yourself, in your cultural denominator, and go and say a bye, very nice bye to somebody whom you have lost. At the same time, pick up the picture of somebody whom you have lost and talk to the picture and say that I miss you as of now, and I feel so sad that you have left. But and re-grieve them. Re-grieving is also a very important aspect. There are different ways, so it's so important that you grieve with symbols which are close to your loved ones, with the places which are close to your loved ones, and sometimes people grieve even with food. I'm eating what you love the most, and as of now when I'm eating, I'm thinking about you. I recall, sometimes I cry, but recall all the bad things. But slowly I start recalling all the good things about yourself. And there are so many ways.
I think we have some patients, sir. We are here, they are coming to us for seeking for. I think one patient lost his mother. The child, I think he says he's 16-year-old child, and he came from Uttar Pradesh to seek treatment here in Patna. And it's a very remote area of Uttar Pradesh, Lakhimpur Kheri, one place is called. And from their father was, his maternal family is from Patna. So they are now here. They are staying with us, and they are seeking treatment here. They are coming for therapy. So what we have told, and it's helping them also. Like this, we are recalling about all the good memories of your mother. what she wanted for you at the when what you wanted to be in a life. You have to work upon that. Those things and there, and also to write something about your mother, some good memory about your mother to write and say proper goodbye to your mother. Go to the place where after that where she had died, and that she has because he has somewhere he thought that he is guilty, he has said some bad thing in the end moment and he had not met the mother when mother was going to hospital that point of time. Before one day there was some conflict with the mother and mother went without and he was not able to see. And that guilt has compelled him and he was so decompensated when he came to us because he has a suicidal behavior, sir, active suicidal ideation because I am the one who has uh, given this way because mother would have probably better if I have said some good thing to the mother. So those things.
Excellent work. Excellent work. Excellent work.
Those things were writing some good memories, some proper goodbye, proper letter, candles, nearby what you have told, sir. These things we can do. At least we should listen to the child, especially the adolescent child, those 16, 18 years old child. They have this because different age group, they are different fear, different concern, different things about themselves. Like 6-year-old child, 8-year-old child, 12-year-old child, and 16-year-old child, they have different level of what we call antardhwani. So inner voice and other antarbhavna, those inner emotions, they are going through what you have told. There are a lot of emotions. They all are positive emotions in the different context. In some context they may be good, some context may be bad. But you have to focus on all those emotions. There is a variation among some good, some emotions we have already covered, but a lot of emotions we are going through in day-to-day life. So those things also I think we have to narrate to the each and every child which are going through these phase of life in COVID times very difficult. So that also the types of emotion what you have covered, we also taught them. So it's not good or bad. It's not good or bad.
Thank you, sir. I'll have to leave, Rajiv. I'll have to leave.
Yes, sir. So one more last comment about these things. What you have told about different things about how to change how for positive mental health, about the positive mental health, how to do things about lifestyle changes basically. So lifestyle changes is one aspect we can change about changing thinking and behavior. So thinking part is the most important aspect I think. In thinking part, I think more about the positive affirmation about ourselves. That's what we are teaching to our patient also. And
self-talk.
Yes, sir. Self-talk. What? And also the parallel talk also. The same time, if the child, 16, 18 years old child, not able to tell about their feeling, so you have to see what they want to tell. Just you will go through that process. Do you want to tell these things? So you have to tell in the both way also.
Absolutely.
So these things generally we are telling to our about from the positive affirmation. I think one more is if they have some negative cognitive distortion they have. So most common cognitive distortion in COVID era were there. Should be at least for doctors whether I will able to transmit infection to our family members or something like that, like the weak release. So those things are, if it is there, then you have to among patient also, among to us also, that things we have to take care of ourselves because we are doing the right thing. We are doing the PPE kit, everything we are doing it. So chances of infection is less. So this change in thought, behavior, and the lifestyle changes. So these are the things that I think we have for positive mental health is important. That's what I want to tell to viewers also. And for your permission, I think now it's time also. Now we are ending. So any last moments, any last comment if you want to ask? You want to?
I would tell all medical graduates and psychiatrists start support groups for all those who have lost their loved ones. More than 4 lakh people have died in India. Start support. We have started support groups in Bombay, and online support groups also are very great help. And see to it that you spread the mental word. Let all of us become mental health soldiers and build the mental health movement across the country, across the globe. Vasudhaiva Kutumbam will be very, very, very happy. And let us all be mental health soldiers. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Dr. Rajiv, for being the wonderful moderator. And good day, goodbye. World Mental Health Day is on the 10th. We wish everybody good mental health, and we ask each one of you to do some mental health activities on the 10th of October. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Now I'd like to thank all the organizer who has given us, both of us, given us this platform to tell our thing, tell our feelings, everything. And also, I think thank to my mentor, my professor, Dr. Nand Kumar. He's also the chairman of this Mental Health Foundation, and he has given this such a novel thing he's doing from last, I think, when we were the young postgraduates, 2009 or 10. That time sir has started and is continuing, as big applaud to the sir that he's continuing this one. So now this is my closing remark. Now I think with this I would like to close the session and hand over to our organizer. And once again, thanks a lot. Thank you, sir. So we will in touch.